Mabuhay, Kamustika, welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. Hopefully, many of you will be able to join here tonight and learn about Tampo. And if not, certainly check this out on the archive because if you're interested in a Filipina, the topic of Tampo is something that you'll have to, get used to. I mean, obviously, the more you learn how to relate to your Filipina, the less likely she is to use Tampo. But this is something we should talk about because it's something that can cause a lot of friction if the foreigner is not aware of why this behavior is happening. And tonight we'll talk about, uh, from a Filipina or Philippine perspective, why this is, where it comes from, and the best way to go about handling it so that you don't have to be on pins and needles every time it happens, that you're going to be in some kind of trouble. So I hope you all had a good Christmas. One gift that I got here, my hands don't shake too much, is this little salt and pepper shaker. It's a rooster, and my wife got that for me because she knows I really like roosters. And in fact, she got this for me too. It says Philippines. It's a rooster. I like roosters very much. So, you always hear them in the Philippines. So I hope you got something that you enjoyed too. So let's begin this discussion about Tampo. Of course, leave comments. If you've been involved with a Filipina, you probably have some experience to share. And this probably won't take too terribly long. So when we're done, we'll have all kinds of time to talk about your experiences with Tampo and anything else that you would like. So I want to comment on this topic. Many other people have, of course. I'm not trying to do any better than anybody else. This is just a normal topic you would think about, and I'm going to do my part here to discuss it. So the way I have understood it is Tampo, and it is pronounced Tampo, not Tampo, like I said in the promo. If I said Tampo, you might not know what I was referring to. So from now on, the correct way to pronounce it is Tampo. So the way I have understood it is Tampo is a Filipina's way of giving her boyfriend or husband the silent treatment. Please subscribe to Love Beyond the Sea. This is a channel to help foreigners interested in relationship with a Filipina learn how to relate to her in a way to have the best relationship possible. In this video, I will define Tampo, its purpose, and pull together some information from Wikipedia and my own experience, and conclude with a hypothetical Tampo scenario with how to handle it in the best way. I will have this in the description box too. And I think it would be good to keep this handy because if you are interacting with a Filipina, this is very likely to happen. And how the foreign man responds to it can break off the relationship unnecessarily or allow it to grow. Now, originally, I had not intended to have this be for a live stream. It's just going to be a short video, but I thought about it and I wanted to be sure that viewers had a chance to comment and that they understand this. So it'd be nice to have some interaction. We can certainly talk about this and anything else afterwards. So according to Wikipedia, Tampo in Filipino culture refers to a behavior in which a person withdraws his or her affection or cheerfulness from a person who has hurt his feelings. They withdraw their affection or cheerfulness from a person who has hurt their feelings. In English, sulking or to sulk is often considered the closest translation of Tampo. And then, of course, there is the term the silent treatment. Tampo is usually manifested in the withdrawal of affectionate or cheerful behavior, and the expression is almost entirely nonverbal. These manifestations may include resisting expressions of affection. How has the Filipina you have experience with handled you trying to, put your hands on her, gently turn her around, or, do things like that that you would normally do? Well, how did she handle this while she was in Tampo, resisting expressions of affection? Another one would be not talking to the person concerned or to people in general. It may be more than just the person that she feels offended by. It could be other people that, happen to be around at the same time. Another manifestation, just being unusually quiet. Another one, locking herself in her own room. Have you ever experienced this? That goes beyond, you know, nonverbal and just well, it is nonverbal. It's continuing it by concealing herself from you, isolating herself from you. So I suppose if she's really upset, she has to take it beyond just avoidance, to making sure that you can't get to her. Another one here listed is refusing to eat. Refusing to eat. Have you ever been involved with Tampó, with a Filipina, and had her, not eat? I suppose either because she's so upset with what offended her, or maybe she's doing that to, embellish the effect. But that is part of it. Refusing to eat. That can be anyway. Another manifestation, not joining friends in group activities if she is experiencing Tampó, withdrawing from the group and just simply keeping to herself. These are usually efforts to get the offending party to make amends. That's why she's doing it. All the while she is giving someone the silent treatment. Beneath all that, she wants to make amends, and these efforts are there to lead to making amends. And if these behaviors do not work, one might choose to escalate them, perhaps to foot stomping, door slamming, or muttering. Let me know if anyone has experienced anything like that. Here's the cultural context to Tampó. And this is very important to remember in many things. If you're going to be involved with a Filipina, she comes from a different culture. It's not wrong. And the foreigner will have to do some adapting to her. Of course, it works both ways. But in this case, it may always be there, and it's important to know how to deal with it. As a cultural behavior, Tampó springs from the non-confrontational nature of Philippine social interaction. Tampó offers an acceptable means of expressing hurt feelings in a society in which direct expression of anger or resentment is discouraged. The withdrawal behaviors of Tampó are indirect ways of expressing hostility. I don't think that's in a harsh way for hostility, but she has been hurt. So Tampó may also be seen as a means by which Filipinos save face, as direct confrontation is usually a threat to the smooth interpersonal relationships deeply valued in Philippine society. The basic expectation of one who engages in Tampó is that the offending party will woo or cajole him or her out of the feelings of being unhappy. So she's giving the silent treatment, which she is using as a way of making amends. And while she's doing this, she wants to lead you, the person that's offending her, to woo or cajole him or her out of the feeling of being unhappy. There's a Tagalog word for that, and this wooing and cajoling is done in a loving and tender way. That's what she wants. And there is a term for that too. It's called lambing. I assume that's how it's pronounced. Lambing. This wooing and cajoling is done in a loving and tender way. So that gesture is called that. For the offending party, in this case the man, The typical Philippine way of dealing with Tampo is to respond to the offended party, Filipina, with friendly overtures or expressions of concern. Friendly overtures or expressions of concern after a short cooling off period. After a short cooling off period. Not to do this may cause relations, especially romantic ones, to deteriorate. In most instances in which Tampo is engaged in, healing the inner emotional relationship between two people is usually more critical than resolving the issue itself. And that is from Wikipedia, I assume from Philippine sources. Now, per the Asawa Guide to Phil-West Relationships, Asawa meaning spouse, Tampó is a mild behavioral reprimand that verges on role playing. Tampó is mild and controlled and is the direct result of some perceived offense of a minor nature. And it is short in duration. Short in duration. So the recommendation here is to apologize for the bad behavior. Whether or not you're actually guilty of the perceived crime is irrelevant. The important thing is that your girlfriend or wife desires to be consoled. She has been wounded emotionally and requires emotional solace. Intellectual objections will have little effect and may actually aggravate the condition. And you've probably experienced that if, like many of us would, try to reason with them, talk to them, put your hands on them to show affection and just get rebuffed. But don't worry. I mean, she does have a plan, and she doesn't plan on being mad at you forever. Similarly, don't accuse a Filipina of Tampo. That will embarrass her and would be a breach of etiquette on your part, according to this Asawa Guide to Phil-West Relationships. Her job is to execute the Tampo as best she can, and your job is to play along and make her feel better. The old standbys are still effective. It says here, a romantic card, chocolate jewelry, and I'm sure those are good ideas. I have not had to do that, but just keep that in mind, and I'll get as much of this in the description box as I can. I'm limited to 5,000 characters. So this is me speaking now. And by the way, please leave comments as we go. Love to, talk about that or anything else. Now, I have no reason to doubt the veracity of this content from these two sources. I am married to a Filipina, and this sounds familiar. I would agree from what I've experienced that Tampo has indeed been mild and controlled and short in duration. That would mean the rest of the day, sometimes early in the next day. After thinking about it for a while, I can agree with the part about the perceived offense being of a minor nature. This is because I've read stories of other men who were perplexed as to why it was happening. If they thought it was egregious, they wouldn't be wondering why she was not talking to him. It sounds like to me that Tampo doesn't strictly apply to a more malicious, severe offense, but sounds more like the response of the Filipina being miffed and offended, but not due to a serious threat to her. In our case, her mild Tampo was not unexpected considering the offense, what I did wrong. I have not experienced the foot stomping, door slamming, or muttering that was alluded to. When a man observes the manifestations that were listed, he can know that he is in the Tampo zone. I have tried to combine this information into the basic scenario like this one. The Filipina's feelings are hurt by a perceived offense that is minor in nature, that has wounded her, requiring emotional solace, time alone. There's one part that I, don't understand. And it is this, when it says these manifestations are usually efforts to get the offending party to make amends. And if these behaviors do not work, one might choose to escalate them, perhaps to foot stomping, door slamming, or muttering, which I have not personally experienced. Now, it says the basic expectation of one who engages in Tampó is that the offending party will woo or cajole him or her out of the feeling of being unhappy. Now, to me, this makes it sound like the Filipino would consider calling off the Tampo without allowing it to draw on for a long time if the offending party tried to assuage her, quote, in a loving and tender way, unquote. I think the key must be where it talks about resolving with friendly overtures or expressions of concern after a short cooling off period. I take that the offending party, the man, needs to determine the exact time of this cooling off period somehow, and that she is doing Tampó to get the offending party, the man, to make amends for his perceived offense of a minor nature. She is doing Tampó all the while she desires to be consoled. At the point of the end of the cooling off period, and how is he to know exactly? He initiates wooing her in a loving and tender way. Intellectual objections will have little effect and may actually aggravate the condition. Now, after you apologize, allow the Filipino to lift the Tampo slowly at a respectable pace. Do not expect instant results. Do not continue apologizing again and again in an attempt to speed the Tampo's demise. This will only make you look foolish and it won't work. Keep your dignity and let her keep hers. And that was from those sources that I quoted. Don't accuse a Filipina of Tampó. That will embarrass her and would be a breach of etiquette on your part. Her job is to execute the Tampó as best she can, and your job is to play along and make her feel better. Talks about, romantic cards, chocolate jewelry, and I don't have experience with that, but I'm sure these standbys actually do work. I have said I am sorry and waited for the Tampó to end, and when she has executed the Tampó as best she can, the execution seems a bit nebulous to me, like she's going to end it when she feels ready to be consoled. But based on what? And the man is to initiate reconciliation after a short cooling down period. But how does he know when to initiate with this? Now, before I propose how to deal with it, and hopefully some more of you will be online here. Maybe people left for the holidays. But this is a time I thought I would put in a shorter live stream. So before I propose how to deal with it, I must say that the Filipina feels she has been hurt in some way. And it's possible there was a misunderstanding and the foreign man doesn't deserve the silent treatment. If this is the case, the way to get through this is the same as if you were guilty. Stay calm. Don't overreact. Don't plead your case. Apologize anyway and believe that unless she has been assaulted verbally or physically, she will call it off. The less you protest, the sooner things will be back to normal. Now we're going to go through an example of Tampó and how it might look like in real life, just in case maybe you haven't experienced it. I hope the speakers are working and everything here. If nobody is able to join me tonight, then it will be shorter, and people can look at the video later and learn about Tampó. I don't think it's something that, if a foreigner is aware of what's happening and what's coming, that he should be too concerned about it. I mean, if you feel like it happened so much to end the relationship, then either she's very extreme with her Tampó, or maybe the foreigner is doing something that she isn't making herself clear to that it bothers her, or maybe she is, and he doesn't think he should have to make that change. But in a relationship with a Filipina, there's going to be things you have to adjust to, and Tampó is one of them. I don't know how to compare it to how, let's say, an American woman would deal with the silent treatment, but I believe the information I'm giving here is true. I don't think it's something you have to be terribly concerned about. And perhaps after I read this theoretical example here, you might feel the same way. So it might go something like this. I am upset with my Filipino wife about something, and I react by raising my voice and using profanity. In this case, I know for sure why I am getting Tampó. And if I didn't, I would at least have a good idea. In this example, my wife disdains my animated theatrics, finds it troubling and offensive. It's late at night. We are in bed. She rolls over, faces away from me, and I try to reason with her to no avail. Then I start to get worked up again, and she threatens to leave the room. Even though she is troubled by my actions, she wants to be consoled in some way and wants me to initiate making amends. She is shocked, disappointed that her husband has reacted like this to something. She would like me to try to console her and apologize at some point in time, and doesn't expect it to be very long, but she isn't sure when it will be, whenever it feels right. Eventually, she wants me to make friendly overtures or expressions of concern in a loving and tender way to woo her out of her silence, but it's anybody's guess when that should be. I apologize and allow her to cease Tampó whenever she feels ready to, and leave her to herself, respecting her timing. I don't accuse her of Tampó. She knows that I know she is upset with me for something and is giving me a predictable, mild behavioral really. She knows that I know she will break her silence sooner or later. The duration likely to be commensurate with the depth of her hurt. It may or may not help to buy her a card or chocolate or jewelry as a token of my sorrow. I remind myself that Tampó is a cultural behavior that has emerged from the non-confrontational nature of Philippine social interaction. Where my Filipina is from, she has grown up believing this to be an acceptable way to express hurt feelings, since direct expression of anger or resentment is discouraged. There is no reason to expect her to drop this once she is in my country. So I believe this is the best way to respond to Tampó from your love beyond the sea. I know there's a lot of videos on Tampó. We get the general idea that there's a silent treatment going on. And I've read some stories that were pretty out there, but it's just, from what I understand, from what I've experienced, and from what I've just read, I don't really understand why it gets quite the billing that it does. I mean, it doesn't seem that bad. Now, if the Tampó goes on for 2 or 3 days, well, of course, that's going to be very, very angering and irritating to be with your spouse and not be able to talk to her. Now, communication is always important in a relationship, but in the case of a Filipina, when she uses Tampó for the reasons that I just went over, it's not that she can't communicate. It's she is doing what she has learned growing up, that she doesn't want to communicate with you in an argumentative way. She is more likely to just not talk to you. Just realize that she's been offended somehow, you might ask her, what did I do wrong? And she may want you to take some time to figure that out on your own. It's possible she won't answer your question. And as I have read, the more you talk to her about it, or even get upset with her for using Tampo, that's just going to extend it. I don't think this means that she simply is unable to communicate. I'm sure there's many times in your relationship that she has communicated. Um, but, often when a woman is upset, she will choose to temporarily discontinue communication. And if it just happens once in a rare while and you can understand why she feels that way and why she did it, and that it doesn't seem to take, to last very long, maybe 12 hours, maybe 24 hours, maybe, she's not going to say anything the rest of the day, and maybe later on she will. But what I've experienced is that, the Filipina, when she's ready, I don't know if there's a thought process involved. And like I said, I don't know exactly when when the man is supposed to know when to, initiate some kind of consoling gesture. But at some point, she will be determined that it's time to end the Tampó. And if the man hasn't been on her case for it, I think when she's done with that Tampó, she's done. It's over and done as if nothing had ever happened. And so that's another thing to remember. So, unless I'm missing something, and I sure would appreciate hearing from somebody here about their thoughts on Tampó. I don't really see, I'm just being honest, why it's that big of a deal. Now, it's possible that it's a big deal because it happened to somebody and they didn't know the things that I've just talked about. And so they went about resolving it in a way that they've normally done in their life. Maybe they've raised their voice. Maybe they stepped in front of them to get in their sight line. And I don't know, maybe they just were very verbal. Maybe they slammed the door, ran away, something like that. I don't know. I don't know. I just know that's not a good idea. And so for someone that has never experienced this, I think you're off to a good start if you take these words to heart, because even with our best intentions, there will be times we are going to do something to offend the Filipina. We may not even know why it would offend her. Eventually, we'll find out. Just not try to, force it out of her. Please don't try to think that, she is maliciously doing this because she wants to irritate you or frustrate you. I did not read that anywhere in that information, that she's trying to wound the person that she feels has wounded her. This is just her way of saying, look, I'm not happy about this. I'm not going to argue. I don't want to talk about it. I'm just going to step away. And that's not like she tells you when you get married, hon, there's going to be some times when I'm not happy with you, and here's what I'm going to do. It's called Tampó, and I'm going to give you the silent treatment, and this is how it works. That's not the way it's going to happen. So I wanted to do a live stream on this and get it out there, where it comes from, what's behind it, what her intentions are. And I don't know exactly, like I said, what she's thinking about when it's time to end. Best just to realize you don't know when it's going to end. And unless you've done something really, really bad to her, it's probably not going to last very long. Everybody's different. If you ask me, 3 days of the silent treatment for something that, wasn't, name calling to somebody, one of her family members, or striking her, that would seem kind of inappropriate and too severe. So otherwise, there'll be times you blew it, and she'll give you the silent treatment. I would suggest just saying you're sorry. Don't try to hug her or anything like that. She probably doesn't want that. She probably wants to just get away from you for a while. Again, I don't think it's malicious. I don't think it's something you should be thinking, hey, this is the end of the relationship. Maybe this relationship is not going to work. Well, all things being equal, it can work if you respond to the Tampó in the way that I just described. So again, I hope some more people would be here to talk about this phenomenon of Tampó. If you're just joining, please go back and listen to this. Evidently, it's not going to be a long one, and I certainly have the time. If somebody wants to talk about any other topic related to foreigners and Filipinas, that's what this channel is about, and that's what I want to help with. The longer I'm married to a Filipina, the more things I should learn, the more things I'm probably going to want to research to get a better explanation of it. And there's my take on Tampó. And it's not so much my opinion as reading to you from those two sources on Tampó and its background and their suggestions on how to deal with it, and then my own hypothetical situation on how I would deal with it, and some other thoughts. So at that rate, since there are no comments, this will be the shortest live stream I've had at just over 32 minutes. So I appreciate the thumbs up. I appreciate the people that were there for this, and hopefully they will watch it later because this does go into some good depth, and I think you can come away from, I hope, the Tampó experience and not feel like it's something mysterious or that the relationship is not going to work. So that will be it for tonight, and we'll plan on doing another live stream 2 weeks from today, and hopefully there will be more participation, and at least hopefully people will look at this and make some comments in the archived part of this video. So that's it for tonight.